All right, how's everybody doing today?
Well.
Doing well, all right. So I've got 8 minutes. This is gonna be the fastest experience you guys have ever had in your entire life. My name is Nick Smolowski. I am a little sick, so if I'm raspy, I apologize. I work for Arizona State University and the Herberger Institute of Design and the Arts. I'm a GIS guy by trade. I am proud to announce that Arizona State recently was awarded for the 4th year in a row by U.S. News and World Report that we're the most innovative college or university in the United States. So kind of in that fashion, we're trying to follow that innovation. And so the design school brought me in as kind of a liaison to the geography department, the map and geospatial hub, the School of Sustainability, and the design department. So that's why I'm here. So last semester, I ran a class called Landscape Surveying and Mapping. I decided to slow things down because I realized we taught a lot of design, but I think some of the core fundamentals that students needed to learn about mapping was being missed. And so quick shout out to the students that took this class. They all agreed that the couple of them that are in the pictures, that they're okay with that, so thank you. So the learning outcomes of the class. We wanted to learn how to use mental mapping to inventory landscape experiences. The second module, or second part, was to learn some basic orienteering and surveying techniques to physically map these spaces. We needed to learn some basic GIS and GPS to do digital mapping. Then I had the students synthesize how each of these types of mapping are similar or dissimilar. And then last but not least, understand why mapping systems are important to design or geodesign. So quickly, the class had attendance and some homework, teach a lot of soft skills as well, like punctuality and professionalism, so you got to get to class. 3 major modules, mental mapping, orienteering, and surveying. Each had a major project. These projects overlapped spatially, but also thematically. Last but not least, they did an overlay analysis and synthesization of these 3 modules, and then presented the class on what they found. Again, having some soft skills there, getting people to get up and talk in front of a crowd. All right, so if I start talking like this is what I would tell my students not to do, right? So, okay, at any rate, so mental mapping, starting back in the 1930s, got the students thinking about what this gentleman proposed, E.C. Tolman. He wrote a book or a paper on cognitive rats and men, how we use, as organisms, maps to map our environment. So the brain stores information spatially. That's very important. You can probably familiar with this gentleman. Kevin Lynch wrote Image of the City in the 60s, did a lot of mental mapping, had people, I believe it was in Los Angeles, New Jersey, also in Chicago. He looked at different things that people map, nodes, edges, paths. Again, experiential mapping. What are people experiencing in these places? So we reviewed some of the critical features of that. Then the students actually went out and collected or mind mapped these areas. And so following Oldenburg's places, so first, second, and third places where we work, we live, but then we also kind of engage communally. We also had some discussions on how those places are diversifying and merging in today, how like you can work from home, but you can also work at an office. So they actually mind mapped out their areas, giving experiences, sights and smells and sounds of their mental representations of these areas. Next, we did some orienteering and surveying, and I was aghast to find out that the entire class had never used a compass before. So we're talking a top 20 landscape architecture design school in the country. We never used a map. How can we ask students to look at solar orientation if they don't know how to read a map properly? So went through some very basic orienteering, how to use a compass, what's magnetic north, how to do some wayfinding, what are topography lines, again, how to use a map. That segued into the students actually using pull tapes, measuring tapes, protractor, ruler, paper, graph paper, and actually mapping out areas, and culminated with using a total station, so working with local people in the Phoenix area. We have some total stations, so the students actually got to go out and get tangible experience physically mapping these areas. During this time, we had discussions on spatial theory, so things like Tobler's law of geography, that things are closer or more related. and really understanding, and I think the students started to perceive that their mental maps and what they physically mapped were a whole lot different, right? So then we got into GIS GPS mapping. So this is, again, we engaged with local companies. We've got a relationship at ASU with both ESRI, but Bad Elf creates low-cost, affordable GPS. So we had the students very quickly get into ArcGIS Online, Collector for ArcGIS. We had their iPhones. We tapped in with a Bluetooth device to give them the way to, collect pretty high accuracy data. They went out into the field. We're not going to do it because I'm probably out of time as it is. There is an online map. But here the students are using that infrastructure we keep talking about at the Geodesign Summit, going online, spreading their ideas, digitally mapping. They got to experience some of the issues that come with the digital transformation of our age, i.e. what happens when the Bluetooth receiver does not connect to your phone, what happens when you're standing next to a building, what are the pros and cons of urban canyons, and how did this all work together. So at the end of the class, in McCargian kind of fashion, we did an overlay analysis of their mental maps, their physical maps, and their digital maps. The students presented this, like I mentioned at the beginning, talking about why mapping is important to design. And in fact, I think it's paramount, and you can't really do one without the other. And I think that was, predominantly what was conveyed through the student projects. They did a great job. Kind of leave you with this, again, going on innovation. I did like the last presentation about discussing some of the pitfalls of what technology can do. We are planning, again, in the future to run this class in some different iterations. This summer at ASU, we are offering the first UAV operations for design, for innovative design. So a whole class completely devoted to using UAVs for the design process, making three-dimensional modeling and mapping, also in BIM. We're also utilizing technologies like YARD and augmented reality to, again, innovate the students, leading them to be prepared for their future jobs. This is my first time to the Geodesign Summit, so I got to see some stuff on ArcGIS Urban, GeoPlanner, and admittedly, I have not used either of these softwares. I'm old school. I just switched to ArcPro like 3 months ago. 15 years, I didn't want to give up desktop, but I've finally made it to Pro. Love it. But I am looking forward to over the next 12 months between now and the next conference or summit, starting to integrate some of the other new technologies that ESRI and their partners are offering. Thank you very much. Oh, and you know what? One last thing. So shameless plug. I am not going to be around this afternoon. I've got to hightail it back to Phoenix. Tomorrow is the Mapping Grand Canyon Conference at Arizona State University, celebrating the centennial of the Grand Canyon. I'm coordinating that event, so I get to hold the sign like Ryan has to tell people to shut up, and I'm about to get the hook. So when you guys leave the Design Summit tomorrow afternoon, hop online. You can go to the website and live stream everything for free. I believe NPR is also hosting it. Thanks a bunch, guys.